Hello, I'm Paul. I'm here to tell you a little bit about Skeet Hill House, a wonderful place about 20 miles from London in Orpington in Kent. It really is a unique location with a wonderful tradition of providing a wide range of activities for children and adults. The area around Skeet Hill House has facilities for horse riding, golf and even caving. Plus there's a dry ski slope there too. But it's not just the more unusual activities that Skeet excels at. I was lucky enough to be part of the centenary camp a few years ago there, and it was a truly fantastic experience. Almost 100 children came for a whole week of camping in the grounds where we played football, volleyball, tennis, table tennis. We made an assault course, went swimming in the indoor pool, played water polo and just generally had a great time doing things that seem so unusual for kids these days. There's a lot in the media at the moment about obesity and our unfit lifestyles, children are tending to spend their time in front of the television, watching DVDs, playing video games. Skeet is the complete opposite of that. It's fun and it keeps kids active in the open air. The atmosphere at the centenary camp was magic and the food was pretty good too. On our penultimate day though, we put the sports kit away and went on a long walk through the countryside. When I was told about that plan, I wasn't all that keen, to be honest. Thought the kids would be even much less impressed, but I was expecting a lot of moaning and complaining. But the two organisers, Dennis and Stan, made it fun and interesting once again, and I didn't hear a single complaint that afternoon. I really do have some fond and fantastic memories of my time there, and I'm not alone. Here are some other seasoned Skeeters to tell you more.
I've been coming to Skeet now for nearly 40 years, and what I love about it is the openness, the space for the kids to run around. It's a lovely, safe environment, and you meet up with other people that have also enjoyed Skeet, and it's like meeting up with a family member. They've also experienced it and seen what a great weekend, what great fun it is. I'd encourage people to come here. It's just within easy reach of London, yet you could be in the middle of anywhere. You've just got away from it all, away from all the stresses of everyday life.
Have we still got the bad children in the cellar?
Hello, welcome to my restaurant. I am Jean-Pierre Michel, the Sticken. You cannot be in the barbecue restaurant without your Sticken.
Can I? What were you saying? My great granddad didn't walk through that door.
Oh, well, stop!
Jason, please, man.
Benny, come on now, come in, let's turn you in the middle, Ben.
If he does,
Come on, Benny, turn the shoot. Oh, it's corner.
Did you see me jump?
The case rests, my lord. I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to insist you don't see the back of my head, so can we cover that one out?
Back to the top. Separate round the outside. To the bar that said you go. You make an arch and then on the set you go. You make an arch and then everybody through the arch. Swing that girl around, you know. Into the middle. Back to pose. Well, expert dancing there.
Go! Don't look round, look in front.
You've done the cheat!
Go!
Well done, girl. Hopping race.
Pace yourself. Yeah, take your time, not too fast. Not too steady as you go.
Turn left on the M25.
Somebody go and trip Sam up and then the rest of us stand the
Roughly tackle him.
This is a race, you know, not a jog.
Keep going,
All right, keep it going.
Catherine. Go on, Luke. Keep going, Luke. Last one. Very good. Very good. Come on, Luke. Well done. Well done. Keep going. Let's go. Very good. Well done. Oh, here they come. Here they come. They're chasing you. Quick, don't let them beat you. Very good. Very good.
Oh. Right. I won't be a minute.
Catherine.
You don't talk, you can't hear. That's it. Unlucky. Hi, that's better. Must have stayed on the stick.
These are some of the children who have been on this Skeet weekend, and some of them are going to give their views as to... Oh, that's nice. As to what it means to them.
Well, I think we're sort of free here, and it's challenging and it's tiring. It's just amazing. It's fun. It's sort of interesting in a bit as well.
Well, I think it's really special, and it's this huge house like loads of schools stay in, and everyone when they're at Skeet they tell spooky stories about Lady Cynthia, and I think it's really cool. Skeet is just really good place, just a nice big place where you can just wander around and do what you like. When you're trying to get to sleep, people will try and tell stories. Like if you sleep in the land, you'll get killed. But that's not really true. There's loads of things here to do. Like the salt bus, the swimming pool, the tennis courts. Yeah, it's really good.
a place to get away from the outside world, but you can still be with your friends. And like as Sam said, there's lots of things to do to occupy yourself. And at the end of the day, you're knackered, so you just fall to sleep.
I hope you enjoyed those thoughts and feelings and that they really struck a chord with you. You can see that the Skeet experience really has given a lot of pleasure to generations of youngsters and adults, so I really do hope to see you there in the very near future.
25 years ago, felt that Skeet should be retained for the Jewish community. And we approached the Jewish Youth Fund, and I'm delighted to see that Peter Shaw and his wife Leah are here from the Jewish Youth Fund, who own Skeet. And they're a charitable organisation, and it was bought in 1943 so that the Brady Boys Club and the Brady Girls Club could have somewhere to come into the country during the war and shortly after the war, where the kids at the East End never really used to see any green fields. And 25 years ago, Brady merged with Maccabi in Edgware and moved from the East End. And Brady said to Jewish Youth Fund that they felt that they couldn't justify keeping the place open because it wasn't going to be used often enough by the club. And we stepped forward as former members of Brady, and Michael Black, who's the chairman of the Bradians Trust, and his right-hand men, Stanley Arundel and Dennis Bondley, at the time, some other trustees have been added since, set up this trust and approached Peter Shaw, sorry, no it wasn't Peter, it was Peter's predecessor, and asked if the Bradians Trust could take over the lease for Skeet. The Jewish Youth Fund said yes, but number one, you must demonstrate that there's a role for Skeet in the community, and in our terms that means it has to be filled on a certain number of weekends through the year with Jewish youngsters, and that each weekend it's filled, there has to be a reasonable number of beds occupied over that weekend. So that's a criteria to say that is there the demand for it, which is quite reasonable. But secondly, the Bradians Trust would have to spend a considerable sum immediately on improving the facilities at Skeet and the infrastructure, and over time be prepared to continue to invest in it. Now that was 25 years ago, and it's a brilliant success story because we have on average around 2,000 youngsters a year who come through Skeet's doors. But the purpose of today is to make a wider group of people aware of Skeet, aware that it exists, aware what facilities are for, be able to answer questions, practical questions like how much does it cost, and so on. So what we have is a programme and a DVD. The DVD takes about 10 minutes. What I'd like to do is to be able to also ask Sandra Waldman, who is a user of Skeet, to give you maybe 5 minutes of her perspective of how she uses it, and Dennis Bondley, who is a trustee of Skeet and a user of Skeet, to give you 5 minutes on his perspective. Now, the slight change that there's been to the programme is that we were anticipating doing the tour after we had lunch, but as has happened, because fortunately a lot of you came down early, a lot of you have seen as much of the house and the grounds as perhaps you need to see in order to see the video. And what I'd like to do is to show you the video now, then have Sandra and Dennis talk for about 5 minutes each, then we'll go to lunch, and we'll move on from there. Before I do that, the man who's going to push the button on the video is perhaps the most important person here, because Nick is the housekeeper. He isn't the guy who was fronting it, who's also a Brady boy. So everything that is done for Skeet is done voluntarily. All of us are volunteers. The only paid people are Nick and Jen, who are the housekeepers. Now I have copies of the DVD for each of our guests, which I hope you'll take away with you when you go. And what I'd like to do now is just say one other thing, which is that Over the last 25 years, the people who have been coming here since 1943, or even since 25 years ago, would recognise the dramatic improvements that have been made to Skeet. And we have a big project which we're now involved in looking forward for the next 25 years. And the Jewish Youth Fund have asked us to put forward our proposals for the continued refurbishment and upgrading of Skeet, which includes bathroom facilities, the sleeping facilities and so on. So our plans are very much for the next 25 years as they've been for the last 25, and what I'd like to do is now hand you over to Sandra, who will tell you how she sees Skeet from a user point of view. Sandra.
Hi, for those who don't know me, I'm with the Jewish Youth Club, which is Hayden Carby. Prior to that, I was with Southend Jewish Youth Centre, and prior to that, I was in the bathing side. But the point is that I've been coming here for 25 years plus, having been in youth work for 25 years plus. And whatever group I've come here with, they've come back, because this to them is home. And particularly at Chigwell now, where I've been for 15 years and we use it twice a year and 3 times a year, the kids who come here come away saying, when's the next one? And the only thing that stops them is because, unfortunately, we have things like the mitzvahs get in the way and things like that. And, you know, when it comes to booking, it's always a point of, right, how many mitzvahs have we got this year and how will that affect our numbers? And when you talk about numbers, you know, some people I've spoken to are put off by the fact that you have to have, is it 28 or 30 now? But what you've got to take away from that is the numbers and actually the cost. You say, if I can afford whatever it is the minimum cost now, then I can bring in 6 people if I want. You know, it's just the fact that I want to use this facility and how I use it. And the way you use it depends on your weekend. And because of the facilities here, you can do so much. What I did, I went to bed thinking these bullet points and woke up forgetting them, but coming here reminded me. Why do we use Skeet? And I think that sums it up. Put one blue tap. But the atmosphere, the space, the fun, it's near but far. And for those who've driven here and hopefully came the shorter route, or even the long route, would know that you suddenly get to a point and you're in the countryside. And that is the ethos of Skeet. The fact that it doesn't matter where you come from, when you drive through the bushes and the little country lanes, and you know that 5 minutes up the road is Ilpington, but at the end of the day you're here and you can't go anywhere because the kids can't escape anywhere. Oh yeah, you can go to Lullington Park, or you can go on one of the walks around here, and there's all the pathways that you can do. But actually, you've got all this here. You don't even need to step out if you don't want to. And that is everything you probably want. From the kosher point of view, yes, you can have kosher to whatever point you want. The food here is kosher. You yourselves, depending on your group, may wish to come in with your own overseer and change it accordingly. The kitchen is set up as milk and meat. You, depending on where you're coming from, may want to bring your own paper goods. There's ways around it. But the actual food and the house is kosher, and that's a good start for any group with the places that you go to now. And the fact that food is here, if you want it, and it's coming from kosher sources that you can see the labels of, to put it. What do we use it for? We use it, our club has different age groups. We do 2 distinctive age groups, and probably the 8+ age group, the 8 to 11s. I'll hold this one. And thank you. Here's my blue tag. With the teenagers, we do a lot of training because they work with the younger kids and the voluntary capacity. And this is a training place, it's brilliant. Running discussions, running Shabbatons, Shabbat programs we've had out on the lawn, we've had in here. We've used numerous places in the dark, candlelight, doing Havdalah is the most wonderful experience here, especially in this particular room. And also for those who've seen the barn, that also creates a fantastic atmosphere. And just the activities that you can do here. The assault course for teamwork is phenomenal. And the amount of balloons that have bounced off people's heads full of water over there and such like. And just, you know, the fact you have an assault course, that it's built properly by the army. and the kids just love it. You've got a swimming pool that comes up to here on me, which probably comes up to here on most other people, but it's a safe pool for 15 people, a nice sized group to do something with. You've got the barn, which can be used for numerous activities. We actually had a disco there one night, and the atmosphere was fantastic because you can set it up, it's away from the building, you can secretly go up there, set it up, make it into what you want it to be, and the kids go over and they arrive in the barn to this lovely atmosphere that's got fantastic views, and you see the lights of London. And I mean, I was fortunate to be here in Millennium and we saw the fireworks all over London and the view out the back. And just the kids themselves create the atmosphere. The food is excellent, and whether you have it cooked here, done by the caretakers or your own, you know, because of the facilities, the food is brilliant. The sleeping accommodation is nicely sized rooms, and because of the way it's laid out, you can quite easily have the girls on one floor and the boys on the other floor, and just everything that you could possibly want to do is open to you here. And you know, we had a first aid weekend here once where we couldn't quite get enough teenagers, we couldn't get enough juniors, so we combined it and made it a first aid weekend. And we had, fortunately I've got family of mine in the Park St John's, and they actually, if there's ever been a fly past, they've seen all these bodies out on the lawn. The children were bloodied and all sorts of things. And we had a whole weekend, you know, doing a first aid course where the teenagers, you know, did it for the juniors, and the juniors loved being these, you know, they were out there with daggers in them and hanging from trees, and you know, it was quite an interesting weekend. But, you know, there's a lot you can do here, and it's only your imagination that will stop you with it.
Thank you very much. And lastly, just before lunch, I'd like Dennis Bondley, who is the treasurer of Skeet, an ex-Brainy boy, an ex-Brainy manager, and he's running the very next weekend, which starts on Friday. Dennis, would you like to give your perspective?
Yes, it'll teach me to read minutes for the minutes in future. I only became aware that I was supposed to say something half an hour ago. Also, most of it seems to be covered by the DVD Michael and Sandra, who kind of Michael the counter scheme. My perspective is slightly different in that I still run weekends in an amateurish sort of way, which I got from our old club leader, Yogi Mayer. I still rate very highly with the instruction of children. And our weekends are very old-fashioned. I run with a friend of mine, Stan, who's another old Brady boy. And the one thing I would say for prospective leaders is, if you come down on a weekend without planning, then you've had it. Because youngsters left alone, they can occupy themselves for maybe an hour or so, and then they can't. And that's why they need to have an organised weekend. And if you do that, that's when you find the youngsters come back. So your organisation for a leader needs to take place before the actual Friday that you come down. There has to be some free time for children, but there also has to be this organisation. One of the things that has not been touched upon, so I can mention, is one of the favourite things we used to do is every room you will either have been taken round or have been round, and you'll see there's around about 8 dormitories. And what we used to do is every dormitory has to put on a little show on a Saturday evening, and you find, I can dance to that, and you, what happens is each manager or leader has to spend some time with the children on Saturday afternoon, and the topic can be anything, but I'm always amazed at the standard that the children manage to put on a Saturday evening show, which normally takes place in the games room or in here. And that's something else. It's off the cuff, it needs a bit of hard work, but the results are amazing. On the assault course, which Sandra mentioned, we had this idea, because we have kids coming back year after year, and we gave them a timing exercise. We let them go around individually as well as in a team. And we had one young lad of 13, and he actually went the whole assault course in 32 seconds. Now, I still don't know how he did it, but he did it more than once, so we know it was done in 32 seconds.
The Olympics.
Well, you know, what happened was, he did it on the Saturday, and because we couldn't believe it, we did another session on Sunday. And he did it in 32 seconds again. You know,
Dennis, how long did it take you?
Dennis
is still doing it.
It took me about 12.5 hours. And then I got to the rope ladder. But children never cease to amaze. The other thing, a ridiculous thing, but when we had the children at camp, we got which we did on the field, and we had a big marquee, and they ate in the marquee, although the food was prepared in the kitchen. So we organised it, they had to wash up, because that's what we did when we were at camp, just after the Second World War. Well, long after the Second World War. We had to wash up, and I remember we got these little tables. There was about 3 girls' tents and about 9 boys' tents, and we said to the girls after the first meal, they had little plastic bowls, and they were standing there, and we said, well, you've got 2 orderlies to wash up. And they looked at us and said, what do you mean? And we said, well, you've got to eat off these plates and use the cutlery tomorrow morning for breakfast, so you're not going to eat like that. No. Well, how are they going to get clean? And they're looking. We said, come on, we'll show you. And we had to take them up outside the kitchen where we had the benches, and we had to show these girls how to wash up. And then a couple of days later, you know, I happened to be walking through, and I don't think his mobile phones was a big thing, and I heard one of the girls on the phone to her mother, because we allowed them to phone home, you know, all the mums were concerned how we were looking after them, you know. And she said, I heard her say, yes, and I washed up. And I heard this thump at the other end. It's some of these things that you don't think of, but when you have a youngster down here, and those are the type of things they have to do, to me, it's all part of character building. They all come together on a Friday evening. In most instances, in our case, where we bring children in from literally anywhere, they don't actually know each other. You might have 2 or 3 children who come as friends, but they don't know the others. And we normally get anything between 40 and 45 people, most of which are children, aren't they? And we try to introduce them in the lounge, but we do it their own way. They play their own stupid little games where they tell you who they are, their age, their school, their interests. And by Saturday lunchtime, we've always found that they intermingle, that they make new friends, you know. Sometimes the youngster comes down in a group of 3, and by Saturday lunchtime he's not even with the 2 others that he came with. He's made friends with another group. And I think that's what one of the wonders of this house is. Because when you look at it, when there's no one here, and you don't have any bedrooms, you think, what sort of business, you know? And that's why you need the children in there to make the rooms come alive. And well, we've been coming for 4 years, and we hope to come for many more years, you know. It's a terrific place. I won't keep you from your food, so I'll let you carry on.
Okay, now you've got the programme. I think we've got a feel now for how the remainder of the day will pan out. And what I'd like to do now is break for lunch.
Michael, before you do, could I just ask if anyone's got any questions?
Excellent. Has anyone got any questions?
Oh, that's a very good question.
We can take questions afterwards because we are going to come back in here before we leave. But if there's any burning questions, you can either ask them now or get hold of one of your escorts and they'll answer them. So are there anyone? Yes?
What's happened to the basement? That used to be there used to be games room downstairs in the basement.
Well, that's interesting. The basement fell into disrepair. And it fell into disrepair, I know this because I saw it happen. There was a snooker table, we had the football, bar football, and we had darts. And I think we took our eye off the ball at a moment in time, and maybe 3, 4, 5 groups had come in, and by the time we got our eye back on the ball, the thing had fallen out of use. And to be honest with you, we've not got it back in use, but that's a very good question. It is a tremendous part of the house because you can use that and create an extra atmosphere. on a weekend. So thanks for raising that, and we'll get it back in shape. Okay. Yes,
so one thing I
Sandra.
forgot to mention was night exercises.
Oh.
This is a terrific place for night exercises because you don't need torches, there's natural moonlight, and even when it's cloudy, there's still just that enough light that allows kids to run around in the dark playing hide and seek or collecting things or whatever they do in a really... The best thing, they always ask what's the night exercise going to be, and we do 2 lots of them.
And you mentioned to me, which we forgot to mention again, that treasure.
Oh, the treasure hunt.
The treasure hunt. And the night exercise, I remember, we used to have to get into the house. So all the children would go out of the house and they would wear a white handkerchief. We had handkerchiefs in those days, not tissues. And the task would be to get into the house, and the managers were defending the house out and about to try and make sure you didn't. And obviously the excitement of beating them, getting in the house was tremendous. Okay, let's go in and socialise. Thank you very much for coming down to our first Skeet Awareness Day. We all feel on the Brady side of things and the Skeeters side of things that it's been a tremendous success, because we've been able to demonstrate to a lot of enthusiastic workers in our community something about Skeet that we really hadn't appreciated. There were a number of reasons why people weren't using it anymore, or people didn't use it at all, and a lot of these misconceptions we've had the opportunity to put right, and I hope we're going to get a lot of new users and a lot of very happy children coming to Skeet in future. I have a disc for each of our guests. One of our old boys, Simon Palmer.
Well done. The one with the name tag.
I'm strictly violent. He's the editor of the Brady Bulletin. And I don't know whether all of you do know about the link between Brady and Skeet. Does everyone know? Or yeah? Okay, well this is sent now to over 500 Brady people, and it's really the Brady people who've kept Skeet going, because any deficiencies, any quick need for operational money, it's the Brady network of East End philanthropists who contribute towards getting Skeet painted or doing various other things that we don't go to charities for. So if any of you would like a copy of the latest Brady Bulletin,
I'm trying to get rid of them. Is everybody familiar with the fee structure?
No, probably they're not. Can I talk to you about the fee structure? The fee structure was set a very long time ago when we looked at the costs that we anticipated were going to be involved in running the house, and came up with the idea that if we set a minimum price as a volume of money that we need to have to even open the house at a weekend, that would be one point. We then had to judge how many bookings we would get, and therefore multiplying one by the other, since we were only at that time looking at weekends, we got a total amount of money, which if, let's say it was £1,000 in the beginning, and we could actually open for 48 weekends, if you take account of Jewish holidays, the maximum revenue we could have is £48,000. If we had 25 people on average per weekend, we would get a figure which was the price per person per night. So that became the first figure when we first took over the lease. Now what's happened is that over the years this house has lost at least £10,000 a year, where because people cancelled at the last minute and we didn't charge a sufficiently large cancellation fee, or because we had too many groups who we were sympathetic to, saying, well, we can't get 25 people or 28 people or 30 people as the numbers have gradually gone up. We allowed it to be used for less because we wanted to make sure that the community had the maximum opportunity to have the house open. Now, as we look forward for the the next 25 years, please God. Sure, the Bradians will be able to raise operational money to cover any deficit that there could be. But you've all seen what the house offers now. There is a commercial discussion that the house will have through its bookings manager with any group, so that we can come to a situation where economies of scale do operate. If there's a group coming down with 50 people, it does not cost us that much more to open the house and cater for a group that's coming down with 30 people. There are economies of scale. So I wouldn't want any of you to be put off by the present structure, but the present structure has a foundation to it. And just as a rule of thumb, it's around £20 per person per night, and around 30 people as a minimum, and therefore we would have £1,200 or so as a total sum for opening the house. But it's open to discussion, and our objective is, and your objective, I hope, having seen it, is that it is something that should be devalued, and kids should want to come to Skeet, and just because their friend at the last minute has decided they're not coming, and I've seen this happen too many times to not be aware of it, the whole thing suddenly cascades and the club leader finds that they're not coming. Maybe an answer is we make sure they all pay in advance, and that's then their choice. So that's my just take on how we see the cost structure. Thanks for raising that, Simon. Brenda? Must be time for tea.
Thank you very much for coming.